Hello, my name's Elijah Wells, and today's review is Ridley Scott's new movie, Napoleon. The story follows Napoleon, who is portrayed in this movie by Joaquin Phoenix, as he rises from the ranks from a French officer during the French Revolution in the army to being the Emperor of France and being one of the most truly iconic figures of history of all time, and also one of the most controversial people again of all time, and also his majorly fraught relationship with his wife Josephine, and his numerous battles and campaigns he did, and basically chronicling his life, both his rise and his fall from grace. With Ridley Scott's enormous resume of historical epics like Kingdom of Heaven, Gladiator, The Last Duel, and of course more smaller films like All the Money in the World, it was pretty surprising that his next film is going to be, of course, of all people, going to be Napoleon. Like, he's been massively amping up the hype of this movie, particularly after his last couple of films did receive middling reviews and may have disappointed the box office, like House of Gucci or The Last Duel, which only came out like only a month apart from each other. But this time, being with Joaquin Phoenix for the first time in over 20 years after the Gladiator movies, and with his next film being Gladiator 2 with Paul Marshall in the movie from After the Sun and Normal People, it was safe to assume that he's going to go absolutely extravagantly big on the movie, despite some of its own number of gashing flaws in this movie, which I will get into like one by one. When it comes to like action and set pieces, Ridley Scott does know how to deliver them, and in spectacular fashion in the movie as well as Napoleon. Like, you are expecting like big action scenes, like big battle set pieces, and he does deliver on those, particularly in the most of the movie, where you can legit feel the anxiety, feel the energy, and feel the absolute chaos just vibrating off the screen. Like, this was definitely you can feel the more of a theatrical essence of the movie, in a sense of a word. Like, the overall like chaotic environment just really springs off of a scene, like during the scenes where he's fighting in the Battle of the Pyramids, and particularly in the Siege of Toulon, which is actually, I kid you not, was shot in Malta. How do I recognize it? Because I went to Malta like last month for holiday, and I recognized one of the castles used there. And also that and also the really frantic like energy just feels like just oozes out, which is something that he really does use to his advantage. Joaquin Phoenix, even though despite being criticized by a lot of people, particularly in Joker, for being in reality probably a very intense person to work with, but in this movie he just absolutely steals the show, like throughout the entirety of the movie. Like his rawness just completely takes over the entire movie. Like, he completely commands and dominates like every scene he's in. Like, no questions about it. Like, he is like the key principle of every scene. Like, he is pretty much marked his presence on that movie as well. And also Vanessa Kirby is also really good in this movie as the estranged wife, or the wife that's pretty much falling away from Napoleon and pretty much driven to seclusion throughout more into the movie, and also dealing with her infidelity, which is something that is given a lot of tender thought into this, and depicting how Napoleon was essentially such a brutal person towards her and just treated her so harshly, not just in private but as well in public, and also having forcing to have sex just so they could bear a child, which unfortunately never happened. And of course, the production and costuming work in this movie, like, a lot of thought and care has been put into this movie, like particularly on a lot of period pieces in this movie as well. Like what people remember from the Napoleonic Wars and like the French Revolution, and it's like it was such a fashionably eccentric place it was, like when it comes to fashion, and also set wise it also does honor it like a great deal as well. Like, pretty much has this brawling effect, like from cathedrals, like from mansions, and from battlefield tents as well. Like, quite a lot of like grandiose world building, which again Ridley Scott does really like use to his great advantage. Of course, the movie is without its majorly glaring flaws. Like particularly with French critics, they've pointed out how unbelievably inaccurate the movie was. Like he wasn't at Marie Antoinette's execution as he was at battle at different location away from the execution of the revolution in France. And also he didn't blow up the pyramids, and he didn't storm out of Egypt to confront Josephine about an affair, and he didn't win over the troops after he returned from exile. Like it's okay to take liberties from history and like tweak some things that makes things a little bit more exciting and Hollywood like, but there comes a point where it's gonna be like, okay, it's kind of stretching it way too far from the truth, where I'm basically questioning the legitimacy of the accuracy of sense. Even though Ridley Scott has defended the inaccuracies of the movie, telling critics to essentially get a life, please. Like, okay, I kinda understand it, but I feel like at this point, I think that's kind of stretching it far from the truth. Like, particularly the scene where he blows up the pyramids with the cannonball. It's like saying that when Adolf Hitler invaded France, he blew up the Eiffel Tower. Like, it doesn't quite ring the same logic or same level of truth around it, really. And another big thing that people have definitely pointed out about this movie, that the pacing and the runtime are a little bit surprisingly more brutal than usual when it comes to Ridley Scott movies. Yes, the movie does clock in at like 2 hours 40 minutes, but the film's pacing just dragged on and on the longer the film went on, to the point, I think when it got to the battle at Waterloo, the excitement kind of like sips out a little bit, and it isn't as fresh as the action scenes from most of the films. As it just builds up and builds up to not much really. It's just the payoff from the pretty bizarre pacing choices in the movie just didn't wound up in the favor of Ridley Scott. Like, and also again, I'm totally cool with like movies being like 2.5 hours or 3 hours plus, but you kind of need to really pack it in, like what's happening, who, what, when, why, and how. But I feel like this movie kind of answers all these questions, but it really does really take its time, to the point where it's not really for the most impatient film audience out there, but definitely for the more patient. The movie does have some very excellent action scenes in the movie, and a lot of the battle scenes are brilliant. Performances of Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby is also really top notch in this movie, as well as a couple of ideas that Ridley Scott has presented into this movie, and as well as designs of the movie is also at top of its game. But in my opinion, this is definitely one of the not one of the strongest films Ridley has made, in my opinion. Like, the historical accuracies are glaring at some issues. The runtime is admittedly doesn't feel truly just justifiable, and the pacing just feels a bit more overbearing at some instances, to the point where it kind of like zips out any like enjoyment of the movie that you may have. But even though the film does have some glaring flaws into the movie, like I said, the pacing is completely unjustifiably a bit brutal at some instances. The runtime feels like it just goes on for a lot longer than it should have. But I feel like this is a very strong case for the resume of Ridley Scott's, and also Joaquin's partnership with the movie. Like, this is, if you want a satisfying like a follow up to the work they did together in Gladiator, then here it is. But if you want something to pass the time from waiting for Gladiator 2, or trying to rub off the stink that was House of Gucci or The Last Duel, then this movie might do the trick. So for Napoleon, I'm feeling a 6.5 out of 10. So, what do you think of the new Napoleon movie? Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Subscribe to my channel, like this video, and this is Elijah Wells, and bye.